life where the old version of you stops working, but the new one hasn't fully arrived yet. Now, most people panic here, but this is where the real work begins. Welcome to the Art of Becoming YouTube channel. My name is Z. I am your host and curator, and this is my first video. I'll be covering topics surrounding spirituality, identity shifting, universal laws, and sprinkling in a little flair of art and beauty, as those are things that are interesting to me. So please subscribe so that we can stay connected and you can get more content like this. Now, let's get into the video. To start off, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself. I'm going to have to take you back to when I was finishing my undergraduate studies, and I was working at this Mexican restaurant for the last year, and I had really developed a community there. I was friends with the people I worked with. I was enjoying my time there. And then I graduated, and nothing about the environment had changed. And yet I started to feel this deep sense of discord or discomfort, if you will. It was like the environment or the universe, whatever you want to call it, something made me so uncomfortable and started pushing me out. And things that I used to just take on the chin and be like, oh, that's just part of the job. All of a sudden, these injustices were like right in my face, blaring in front of me. And I just couldn't get over them anymore. And when I look back on it now, I can see that this was a time of transition, or liminality, if you will. And if that's a term you haven't heard before, liminality comes from the Latin limen, and it means threshold. So in that regard, we can think of this like a doorway. And that was my calling, or my initiation, I guess, into stepping into a new life. But there's this moment right before you walk through that doorway where you're deciding, and that is what this video is about, that particular period in time. And there's a gentleman by the name of Joseph Campbell, if you're aware of him. He studied a lot of different religious texts and stories, and he came up with this formula that he noticed in all of them, which is called the hero's journey. And there are 7 steps to this journey, one of which he literally calls crossing the threshold, and that's step 5. And we'll say that this in-between space is kind of step 2, where you get the call for the adventure, but you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to take this call. I'm gonna be really uncomfortable. What is it gonna take? Now, creation is finished. That's what Neville Goddard says. And you can think of this as when you get a calling on your heart, or you have a vision, or you start to feel this discomfort and this stretching for more that is happening on the inside of you, it's already done energetically. And then we have to decide to step through that threshold and refashion ourselves internally and become convicted to this one thing for everything else to shift outside of ourselves. Because of trauma, social conditioning, and deeply held limiting beliefs, we can draw out this process and make it more difficult than it needs to be. Think of a butterfly, or a caterpillar rather, in its chrysalis. On the outside, we can't really see the transformation that's taking place, but internally, everything is reorganizing when they are in this period. And the natural inclination that you will have during this time is to withdraw and retreat and kind of be in your own isolated chrysalis as well. This makes sense. However, I urge you to be intentional when you withdraw. In your isolation, this is the time to really go within. Ask yourself the questions to see what is it that is no longer serving you. What do we want to put down so that we can make space for the new things that want to come about? What new beliefs are we going to replace with the old ones that have held us back, so that when we finish this process, we're not ever quite finished, but when we come through this transition and we are on the other side, we're happy with the results that we've gotten here. Neville Goddard, he references the Bible a lot, and I've read his complete collection, and there's this point in At Your Command where he references Matthew 6:24 in the Bible. And here it talks about how you cannot serve two masters. So if you think again of this image of the doorway or the threshold, you cannot have one foot in and one foot out. Once the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, they're not checking on it to be like, oh my God, did I do it right? Or is this underway the right way? Like, you have to surrender yourself to this process. And I can understand that can be scary, but the new person that you're going to be at the end of this transformation is somebody who did it even though they were scared. And that is where you start to really trust in this transformation and in yourself, because you know that you can do hard things. You feel the fear of not quite knowing what will happen at the end of this, but you trust the intuition, the download, the guidance that you receive, the vision, whatever it is, that calling on your heart, and you go after it. You make the change. And it's exciting. It really can be. But I want you to know that, like, if you feel stuck in this phase, you're not a failure. Most people are going to encounter ego resistance here. And I want to remind you that all living things are wired for survival, and your ego is the exact same. I want you to think about your thoughts as being living things, and that's why they cling to life so hard. And the ego is pretty much comprised of your beliefs. And what are beliefs but thoughts that we have complete certainty over? And when we think about it that way, that means we can change our beliefs. And so this also goes into science, neuroscience in specific, and how there are certain neural pathways that fire over and over again, and that's kind of what your ego is. It's like all of your beliefs are being reinforced by the wiring in your brain because you've conditioned yourself to go down this path, which means that these neurons are very strong because they're being worked all the time. So when you try to do something different, logically your brain is going to be like, we don't do that. And it's going to try to pull you back to what feels familiar, because that's what your nervous system feels safe with. And that's where you're going to have to train your primal brain, because it wants survival, and it's registering this unknown thing as something that threatens it, and the ego doesn't want to die. But in order for you to refashion yourself, there is this ego death that will have to happen to some extent. And again, like I said, in this period of isolation, it would behoove you to be thinking about the things that you want to let go, so that you can have this process, and it can take as long as it needs to. For some people, this happens overnight, and that would be wonderful. But for most people, this is going to be something where you're going to have to get it into your body and condition yourself, and that process may take some time. And the more that you can enjoy the journey, the better this whole process will be for you. I wanted to also mention a song by Britney Spears. It's called I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. And it just really encapsulates this whole concept of liminality quite well. There's a lyric where she says, "All I need is time, a moment that is mine, while I'm in between." And I think it just so succinctly and like perfectly encapsulates this this moment in time, I guess you could call it, of being on the threshold or in the in-between. And I really like that because I've actually written a guide, and I will link it below, but it asks you a few questions about where you're at so that you have this time like to yourself to actually get a feel of what it is that your soul is calling for now. It's a call for you to be honest with yourself about what you're experiencing, where the gaps are, and what you want to do about it. It's not a quick fix and you don't need to rush through it. You can be intentional and take your time with it. It's just a starting point to help you orient yourself if you have, found yourself in a time where you can see that you're changing, but you're not quite sure where the next direction is. And I also want to remind you that there's always going to be a delay between what we experience in the 3D realm and what we're experiencing consciously in the 5D, whatever you want to call it. The mind goes before the body. So if you were playing this frequency of 97.1, this is no fun, and then your mind gets to 99.9, life is sublime, that's amazing, it's great, but it's going to take time for you to pretty much have that reality shift around you so that the outside is also reflecting 99.9, if you understand what I'm saying. I have also written a Substack essay about this with my experiences, so I will also link that below for you to read, because I will be writing more essays about these things, and I'll put my socials where I also talk about these things in the description box below. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you stick around for the next one because I am very much excited. So yes, hit the bell notification, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment if you find yourself being in a liminal space right now. If you've just recently transitioned from one, I would love to hear if you have any tips and tricks for people down below. So thank you. Oops.